Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Ritha. I am the Senior Product Manager with Product Planning here at GitLab. And today I want to walk you through some research insights that I recently put together related to research that I did last month with some GitLab team members. So the background here, why do we do this? I'm wanting to hone into progress tracking and status. For those who have to manage projects, whether it's a software project or just some non-technical project, but they're using GitLab as their main source of project management, I wanted to hone into how are they able to track project status and then use that to be able to report out to stakeholders. And so in this EPIC 14601, you'll find more information about the background here, but why don't I dive into kind of the research insights? So I spoke with 9 GitLab team members of varying titles all across GitLab, some engineering managers, program managers, et cetera. And if you want to see those actual interviews, I have the dovetail link here. But what I wanted to know is how are they getting that job done today? How are they identifying status of projects so that they can know that the project's on track, so that they know if they need to intervene, so that they can report out to stakeholders, all of these different jobs to be done, which I have detailed here. And in diving into that space, I wanted to identify if GLQL in some form could be used to bring higher level project visibility to these users. Today, I'm already using GLQL for status of a major project that we're working on to roll out the new EPIC experience. So here you can see I have current status by different types of dimensions. And, this is a really powerful tool just as it is. And what I want to identify is, can we take this a step further to create more of a dashboard so that users can utilize the dashboard in different ways to identify those needs, being able to report status, understand blockers, that sort of thing. Here you can see the research goals and questions that I had in mind during the research. And from the learnings, I summarized all of the pain points that were identified, and I tried to group them with similarity. And in doing so, I was able to identify main jobs to be done related to this specific kind of understanding status, visibility, understanding status and having visibility into that. So here I have the main job to be done, summarization of the pain points that I learned, verbatim quotes from the interviewees, and then some proposed opportunities that we can explore to improve the jobs to be done. So I'll go through each of these. There are 5 total jobs to be done. I'll go through each of these at a high level, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper towards the end of the video. So the first job to be done that was isolated is being able to understand project status from one consolidated place. So drilling down into that a little bit more, I learned that people across GitLab are still using multiple tools. GitLab isn't the only tool they're using. They're also using, Google Sheets and Docs and Slack. Also, where they are just using GitLab or when they need information from GitLab, it's really challenging to locate that information because of the way the GitLab's organizational structure is having projects in different groups and so forth. And then there's no real consolidated portfolio level view of multiple projects. You can look at an EPIC board or a roadmap to see multiple projects in flight, but it's really hard to get status across multiple projects. So one verbatim that I want to call out is this one. I don't have a portfolio level view. I have to go into every single issue in EPIC to get the information. And this was pretty common across interviewees, that they are going to issue level detail, even MR level detail, to identify status. So think of all of those records that they're touching just to get the status of a project at its highest level. So opportunities in this space would be a project level dashboard, ideally with this GLQL-powered widgets. I'll talk more about what does that mean? And then a portfolio level dashboard would be another opportunity. The next job to be done is that I need tools to track project status so that I can reduce manual effort and increase accuracy in reporting. And so really here, breaking this down is wanting to be able to utilize performance to get a sense for whether the project's going to complete on time. So using tools in this very first bullet to predict project completion, right? Using tools to see what's left in a project. Imagine a customer with hundreds of projects and hundreds of child or descendant items in an epic, and not being able to, at a glance, see what's left to do here. Next, as changes are made after the start of a project, they have limited visibility into scope creep. So there's no real easy way to see by project. And when I'm using the term project here, I'm talking about epic level. So by the project they're managing, not organizational group project, not being able to see, hey, we kicked this thing off at the beginning of the quarter. Why does it feel like we're not making any progress? Well, it's because your scope keeps increasing, right? So to highlight a verbatim here, I like this one. It helps to understand like the real impact or what's left when you're looking at the data in different visuals. So this person says, I think it was also helpful was the bar charts, and this particular user was talking about the Epic dashboard created by Tenant Scale. He went on to say, you can look at the epic and you could see a long list of issues and sub-epics, but sometimes it's not easy to see how far along you are in progress. You can see open and close, but again, it's just a long list. So being able to see that visualization in terms of a bar chart or a pie chart, whatever, helps to understand what's left of the project. So future opportunities here that we'll explore is project level burn down, burn up charts, predictive timeline for project completion, and project widgets. A project widget, which may or may not include AI summaries. The third job to be done that was captured is the need to obtain routine status updates from project team members so they can stay informed about the overall project. However, the pain points that were captured here, and this was from 100% of the interviewees, is that this is a manual effort to get project status. So whether it's a software project or a non-software project, each of these people are responsible for reporting status on the projects they were working on or they were DRI of. They had to actually hunt down people to get information, whether that was in posting comments and asking for it, or in Slack, or in synchronous calls. There were a number of people I talked to that actually hosted synchronous calls just to get the status of each project. Additionally, written contacts and narrative updates are often required to fully convey the project status. So this means the information I got from users was, even though they would go into issues or epics or MRs to see the latest activity, the comments, status changes, and so forth, they still didn't get a full sense of the status of the project. And so they needed to ask their DRIs of each work stream to provide them with written updates so that they could then turn around and summarize those for the project. So I want to highlight a couple of things. One is this person said, I had to hunt down people and get answers and make sure that we didn't have any blockers. And then this other highlight I think is really interesting about reliable narrators, that this person who's a manager of PMO said that while people are necessary to provide these written contextual status updates, and it's nice to have automation from the computer, whether that's like a roll-up automation or an AI support, you kind of need both, because sometimes one or both is off and you need them both to be able to validate the information. An opportunity here would be check-ins for work items. So being able to have the lowest level or of detail, not the lowest, but the most detailed level of information. So like maybe even a task or an issue that's being worked, getting a check-in for that level. And then each level above that, the person responsible for the feature level, which would be the epic, would read all of those check-ins and create their own check-in at the epic level. And then the person who's responsible for a portfolio of projects would read all of the epic levels and create a summary, right, of update that would be available for that portfolio. The fourth jobs to be done is I need flexible reporting tools that allow me to customize views based on audience needs so that I can effectively communicate with different stakeholder groups. So the pain points that I identified here are the lack of graphical tools available for stakeholders primarily who don't want to look at a wall of text, and then customizable views to be able to tailor the status reports to these different audiences. So I understood from the people that I was talking to that, they provide project status on the same project in different ways depending upon the audience. So if the status is going out to the large group of people who are working on that project, it's much more detailed. It includes issue level detail. It includes a lot of different things like what we accomplished this last period and what we plan to accomplish next. Whereas if it's a stakeholder, director plus audience, it's high level red, yellow, green. Are we on track? If we're not, what are the mitigation steps? That sort of information. The verbatim here, I'm putting myself in the shoes of my stakeholders. That update is not pretty. It's something that's not easy to consume. So it's a bit clunky, it's not, oh, I fully understand. It takes them a while to actually get the value out of it. An opportunity here would be to create role-based views. So even maybe templatizing the dashboard so that, this is the executive stakeholder dashboard, this is the team dashboard, this is the IC dashboard. So that's an opportunity in that space. And then lastly, the last job to be done is the need to review historical status updates to understand progress trends over time. So I actually heard this a lot from more than half of the interviewees. And this was something I suspected going into the interviews because I started to hear it in questions and different conversations just organically. But people are looking for the ability to look at historical status changes and identify trends over time. They want to also compare, where were we last week versus this week? Where were we 3 weeks ago? They want a consolidated timeline for tracking past updates. And they find it very hard to track those changes over time. So what they're doing is kind of useful workarounds would be commenting status in a single epic in individual comments so that they can refer to last week's and the week before. But that's still, reading multiple comments to gauge status of a project over time requires a lot of reading and doesn't like pop out information for you. I want to mention an engineering manager here said to know where you're going, it helps to know where you've been. So, maybe understanding the hurdles and roadblocks, understanding capacity challenges, understanding the wins, understanding, how long it took to do something with similar capacity, whatever all these different dynamics might be, helps you to predict the future. So opportunities here would be historical data snapshot. So being able to see a snapshot in time, being able to navigate, I get the sense of or image in my head of like the Wayback Machine when I can look at a website on a particular date. What did it look like then? So kind of something along those lines of what did the status of this project look like, 3 weeks ago? And then timeline events, I think, will also be a nice opportunity. Timeline events is an existing feature on incidents. I'll dive into this a little bit more here in a few minutes. But what it provides is the ability to add narrative updates over time, and it displays in a nice timeline view. So I think that would be a really nice opportunity as well. Before I dive deeper into opportunities, I want to just close out by saying in the interviews, I also took the users through a magic wand dashboard activity where I said, I'm handing you a magic wand. You can create your ideal dashboard that you would like to view in GitLab, no limitations. And then I turned on Zoom's whiteboarding feature and asked them to draw what that looked like. So I had two managers of PMO, that would be program manager office. So two of those folks in interviews, and this is what they drew. Please do dive into these and read the details and see what people are looking for. It's not that big of a difference. Language might be different, but if you think about what they're trying to accomplish with this information, it's not that different across roles. So that was the first program manager. This is the second program manager. Again, high level status, giving some detail here at the bottom, but being able to, at a glance, identify if the project's on track or off track. From program managers, I received this one where each of these are different projects they are working on, and then below that are attributes of those projects. Another program manager with a status being the first primary thing that you're seeing when you open it with a list of actions. And then a couple of engineering managers as well. Very similar, again, progress front and center, a burn up, an executive summary, and then detail of issues here. And then this one really loves the board and would just love some adaptation of a board view. So I thought that this was a really fun exercise, and it is worth diving into those dovetail interviews as they're creating these dashboards, because they talk about their thought process and why they would use each of these things. So I will be digging into this more as we develop the concept of the dashboard to glean out those points of where we'll be looking to provide features. So I've taken all of the opportunities that I highlighted above, and I've kind of just broken them down into a now, next, later. This doesn't mean that we're going to stop everything we're doing and we're going to start working on these things. But instead, it's just kind of where's the focus. The thing I want to focus on first would be creating this idea of a dashboard and timeline events. After that, we can dive into more kind of charting. There will be more that I'm going to add to this. This is just the top level, first pass, if you will. And then later, let me dive into each of these as well, so I could go a little bit deeper. So thinking about this idea of a GLQL-powered dashboard, the idea would be that it would be some kind of a dashboard that has widgets, where a widget is powered by an individual GLQL query. So similar to what I have here, thinking almost like this would be a widget where I would configure the query. This would be another widget, but the distinction would be that it's on a dashboard. I could place them how I want to view them. So I could have one here, I could have one here, I could have, maybe I have three across, 2 rows of 3 across of those, and I could title them and provide more information. When I'm thinking about this idea of a dashboard, I have broken down, what would the first iteration look like? What would we do next? What would like a fully loaded version look like? So I kind of tried to make that in this iteration roadmap here. And the first iteration is really just creating that foundation, taking what we have with GLQL today and elevating it to the level of a dashboard. So placing it in a home, where does it live, in terms of these widgets, creating the widgets, introducing some sort of check-in process and or timeline events. I'll dive into timeline events because I think that this could be a good MVC and we wouldn't even have to explore the check-ins at this moment. So timeline events already exist for incidents. It looks like this. So like when you're creating one, this is the entry screen. And then once it's created, this is what it looks like. So it creates this timeline. But, thinking we could adapt this. First of all, we have to make this for work items because we have to migrate incidents fully to work items. So we have to create the widget anyway. But what if we created, for example, templates where this timeline event form could be template based, where I select the incidents template, I'm looking at this form. If I select the, the planning items template, epics, issues, tasks, it provides a different form. If I select the OKRs template, it provides a different form, where each of the features that I would want to see are not clearly defined here, but for planning features, for example, I would want the health status, the percent progress, any risk or next steps. And in fact, this might even be useful for both the planning items as well as the OKRs. So this timeline of events, I think if we could create an MVC of this that GLQL could pull from, that would be ideal, because then we could include status updates, right? So the timeline of events would capture the status updates that folks were really talking about being a manual effort today in the, hunting people down. Where was that? Here we go. In this jobs to be done 3. So if we had the timeline events for work items, we could use that as the more structured reporting of status, and then pulling that into a GLQL dashboard. So I think for minimal for the dashboard, it's create the idea of widgets powered by GLQL, identify where the thing lives. And I have a bunch of questions here about where should it live. I just kind of mind dumped ideas. Identify where it lives, and create a check-in process, potentially with timelines. And I think that is the first iteration of the dashboard. To make it viable or more mature, we would want to add the expanded visualization options with pie charts, bar charts, and et cetera. Create that widget library that we talked about, allow users to sort and group within the display criteria, and then introduce that predictive forecasting. To make it a more complete feature, we would add in AI generated summaries, including identifying risks and mitigation suggestions, the historical snapshot that we talked about, portfolio level dashboard, which includes views of multiple projects in one view, role specific views like team views, executive views, Slack integration, and being able to export or share that dashboard out. So this is the dive into the dashboard idea and the timeline events. I'm not going to dive into every one of these, but where we have an epic, I've linked to it with more information. As over the next few weeks, I'll be working to decompose this even more and bring more detail to this epic for those who are interested. So I would love your thoughts. I'm sorry that was a bit wordy. Would love your thoughts on this and any feedback, any ideas for what we could run with. I really want to stick to the first iterations being as boring but scalable as possible. And of course, we will be conducting proper UX and validation as we move along. The ideas that I have represented here would be for POC purposes and just a jumping off point to get the conversation going. So again, looking forward to your feedback. Thanks a bunch for watching.